Hello and welcome to episode number 167, where I speak with Amy Wheeler about prosperity and abundance. We talk about overcoming prosperity blocks and our own experience around financial abundance. We also talk about how prosperity blocks can be related to the chakras and how we can begin to work on these blocks. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, and mindfulness practices, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to help you to connect to each other. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend that you start by listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Now, if you like the content, please subscribe to the show so the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. I've also set up a new private community away from social media on my new website, Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Now, this community provides a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, and to support each other. And I have many other perks in this community as well, so check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab in the menu. I hope you can join us. I'm looking forward to a lot more in-depth connection and conversation over there. And now, here's the show. Hello, and welcome back to Elements of Ayurveda. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Miss Amy Wheeler, our first episode, Amy, of the new year. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you and everyone out there. I'm really happy that we're getting a fresh start, even though it's only in our minds. It's still a good opportunity to press the reset button, I think.
Absolutely, my dear. And I'm looking forward to lots of good conversations with you in 2021. And today's topic you chose, so I'd love for you to tell us about it. Prosperity and abundance.
This is something that's really deep to my heart. It's kind of an intimate place, a vulnerable place that I want to talk about. But I see so many people in the fields of yoga, yoga therapy, Ayurveda, the healing sciences, really having a lot of struggle around it. And I think when something's so difficult, we have to bring it out of the shadows and put some light on it and really try to understand it. And so, it's one of the classical 4 goals or aims of life in Indian philosophy. And there's no reason we shouldn't really talk about it. There's no shame in it.
Right, exactly. Can I ask you to clarify one thing? What is their struggle around prosperity? Is it having it or is it getting it?
Well, that's where I wanted to begin, shall we?
Please dive in.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that abundance and prosperity to me is more than just about money. It's about lifestyle. It's about ease. It's about beauty. It's about being able to rest when I need to rest. It's about deep relationships with my husband and my girlfriends and my family. It's about delicious, colorful, yummy food. It's about good music. It's about interesting, podcasts. Like, I really define it broadly in terms of finding the fullest version of your life that you want to have. And with that said, I think a lot of yoga and Ayurveda and yoga therapy people kind of teeter back and forth between a full and abundant life. It's almost like they take the corporate mindset that they left and then they bring it into the new yoga and Ayurveda life. And next thing you know, they're in the rat race once again without this fullness or this abundance. So I think you left a corporate life. Were you able to make that change where your lifestyle and the fullness of your life was top priority?
Oh, it took a while. I was in the financial world when I lived in Boston, and then I went into managing martial arts studios, and there I was helping someone build their business, and I worked day and night. So no, I didn't go straight into managing my lifestyle. But then it was after that, I went into fitness. Again, I was overworking. So it wasn't until I really focused on Ayurveda and did my Ayurvedic Panchakarma in Bali, which is, I talk about in episode number 5. That's when it really clicked that I needed to change the way I lived.
Right. So, I take this all the way back to our childhood trauma around financial abundance and prosperity. I think our views, just like any other area of our life, our views on finding a life partner, our views on weight loss, our view, management, our views on, what kind of human being do we want to be in the world? It's all shaped very early in childhood. And so one of the first things I do when I coach someone around this area is ask them, what's your story around financial abundance? And do you have trauma around it? And the way that I came to understand that was through my own trauma. I'll just tell you a little story. I started working with an accountant when I was, growing my business, my yoga business. And on the 5th of the month, I needed to have all my bank statements to her, which meant I needed to go into my bank account, press a button to download the PDF, and put them in a Dropbox. It literally would take 5 minutes to put that in there.
Right.
Month after month after month, I couldn't get myself to do it. Like it was the last thing on my list. Finally, after about 7 months, she fired me.
Oh.
She said, if you cannot get me these documents, I don't want to work with you.
Oh.
I was like, what? I just got fired? And so I had to take a really good hard look at why was that so hard for me? I'm a very organized person. I get a lot of things done and I do them well. And I have timelines and lists and to-dos and reminders. I mean, there must be some trauma there. There was something very stuck because it wasn't about finding the 5 minutes to download the PDF.
Right.
So that was a real wake-up call for me. And she was so joyful. When you hear the word Leela, the divine play of the universe, that's how she was when I would speak to her. I'd be like, do you like this stuff? Do you find this fun?
Yeah,
and
okay.
she was dancing in her chair, balancing my spreadsheets.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, how are you like this around money? She's like, I've always just loved it. I feel like it's fun. It's play. She said, there's nothing I'd rather do than balance a checkbook and help people see where they're going off track and bring them back into the flow of abundance. And she just had such a different attitude than I did. For me, it was dread. It was, oh my God, I got to do this again this month. And so I started to look at the trauma I had around financial abundance because for my whole life, I lived what I call in poverty. My parents were urban missionaries in Newark, New Jersey, and we lived in a religious house, which meant there were 4 families living in one home, and the house had 3 floors and an attic. And because my parents were the priors, they were the top dogs, they had to sacrifice the most. And so our family, the 3 kids and my 2 mom and dad, lived in the attic, which was unfinished. It had, just the boards. It didn't have drywall. It had, basically you could see the boards and the insulation. It was not clean. It was an attic.
Right. Wow.
Like it wasn't a nice attic. It was an attic. And so, the theory was we're here to serve God. We're here to do good in the world. our abundance and our care and our needs don't matter. And in fact, out of all the families there, we had to suffer the most to show our devotion. So these are the very early ideas that got imprinted into my mind, that I'm always last, you know?
Yeah. And what age were you then, Amy?
I was probably around 3 years old. Right. So, you know, very, very, they say your personality is pretty much forming completely at that time, right?
Early belief systems, which are deeply rooted.
Right. And so I did have trauma around abundance and prosperity, and continued to into adulthood. I mean, it didn't stop there. This was my parents' mentality, and that's how I was raised. And then we moved to a small farm town in Iowa, which is all about piousness and righteousness and hard work and, you know, all those great qualities. But if taken to an extreme, you know, it's not that great. So when it came to money, I had extreme avoidance. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel secure. I would get kind of hysterical about it. I remember early in my marriage freaking out to my husband, like, oh my God, you know, there's not enough money in the bank this month. And having shame about it. What's wrong with me? Blaming anybody I could, you know, get my hands on to blame. It was their fault that I was like this. Stuck in sympathetic nervous system. Totally unable to save. If I ever did have money come in, boom, it would go right back out the door. A very Vata-oriented response, based in fear. Couldn't save a penny to save my life. You know, when you think of trauma response, just layer money on top of that, right? Some people have trauma response in intimate relationships. Some people have trauma response with respect to self-care and health. Some people have trauma response in a variety of ways, but one of my trauma responses was around money. And once I realized that and just said, oh, this is a puzzle for me to figure out, just like any other area I would be suffering, that's when things changed for me. And that accountant really helped me see that Amy, her response and your response to money is so different. And why is that? And do you want to change that? Right. So I'm going to just take a breath here. Are you stunned?
No.
You sound quiet.
Yeah, no, I'm taking it all in. It absolutely makes sense, you know, that your experience at a young age led you to build all these belief systems around money and holding on to that money because you were always sacrificing for others or for God. Right? Essentially. Right. I just think, you know, it's a really interesting story and it's a great conversation. And it's something that, you know, in our society too, and this is definitely a thought process I had around money was, well, money is the root of all evil. And I recall that when I was living in Bali, that I was working with somebody it was in a group format. And then the conversation around money came up and I said my belief system is like the more money, more problems. You know, that was my belief system. And then we had a big conversation, a group conversation around that and did a lot of work around it. And my understanding was, well, if I have that belief system, well, then I will never attract money or I will never, you know, achieve abundance because I have this belief system, this energy, this negative energy around money.
Yeah, and it's interesting you should say that because I think that's exactly where I have been too in my life. And at the same time, I saw my older brother go from the exact same household that I had to being a multimillionaire who, you know, basically developed a bunch of patents and has, you know, retired at age 50 and was able to windsurf all day, every day and enjoy life and just really be in the divine flow of joy all day long, every day. And I kept looking at him going, wow, how did he get there? Yeah. Right? Yeah. And he wasn't evil, you know?
Right, exactly. I do believe our belief systems create a certain amount of energy, right? There's an energy then, in this case, around money, and that this energy affects all our transactions and the way we do things in life.
Right. So I want to be very clear that while I do agree with that, and I do think that we have internal work to do to remove the obstacles. I say it's like irrigating a field. Like your goal is to take away the things that are blocking the water flow into the field, and to study how to channel the water. Like there is a whole lot of internal work, and that's, what the coaching and business course that I run helps people do. But there is also external difficulties that if you were not born into money, if you don't understand how wealth works, the system is pretty unfair. It does not support people who don't come in with a full, card deck. Like if you were born into some wealth, your parents get you that internship, they get you that education, they get you a car to get to school, they introduce you to people. Friends of the family hire you for your first job, and then you get moved up the ranks because they took a personal interest in you and somebody wanted to mentor you, right? There's so many things that come with wealth, and then you know how to invest differently than the rest of us because your family had money to invest versus people who are poor. There's nothing to invest. We can barely get through the month, right? So it's not a total inside job. But even if we look at all those factors that I just listed of education and internships and mentoring and transportation and all of that, unfortunately, and this is what I had to come to terms with, I was very resentful that people had all that. And as long as I was stuck in my resentment, I couldn't move forward.
Right.
And I had to let go of that. Money is the root of all evil. Anybody who has wealth must be an evil person. I kind of had to let go of that, even though there's some truth to some of it, because it was blocking me. It was not allowing me to irrigate my field. I was so focused on that I couldn't figure out, okay, this is the reality of the society we live in. What's my next step knowing that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. The situation we're born into determines our foundational experiences with money.
And continues to throughout our entire life. I mean, I'm 50 years old and I completely see the inequities of our society all day, every single day. And but I think the hard part for me and maybe for some of our listeners is that's reality. So what are we going to do with the reality in front of us?
Right.
I can stay resentful about it, or I can say, yeah, the system is pretty rigged against me, against other people who didn't come in with a whole lot. And then you layer on people of color and, people with different gender identities and, on and on and on. It's not fair out there. And I guess in my naive mind, I thought, well, it has to be fair before I can move forward.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's whole systems against people of color, and it's just, it's a fight to get anywhere. But also, I do think that if people are born into money, say with a silver spoon in their mouth, so to say, and they're handed everything and they're given everything, I feel sometimes that there's less of a drive.
Oh, I see that with my college students. I laugh all the time because I'm the sports psychologist for a couple different golf teams, and one of the schools, the kids, it's $60,000 a year to go there. They all have BMWs. They are a totally different breed than my Cal State kids, who are first generation college students and their parents are blue collar workers. But guess who's happier? And this was another turning point for me. Guess who's happier? Guess who has more self-esteem? Guess who is living life and enjoying it, and their faces are lighting up on a daily basis? It's the poor kids. Right.
I think the satisfaction that comes with having to work for something and achieving it by yourself. And there's huge satisfaction, and not only satisfaction, but huge self-esteem that's built on that grind.
Yep, it's true. And I think, people who are given a lot, they sometimes, if they're aware of how much of a head start they've been giving, they have some shame around it, or they want to pretend, oh, I didn't get that much help, right? But let's just all admit reality. Some of us came in different places than others. Okay, so you got given a head start. Don't be ashamed of that. Do something good with it.
Right.
If you came in without the head start, well, let's stop being resentful and do our best to move forward with what we have in front of us right here and now.
Right, exactly. And, sometimes that lack of a head start, like I was saying, can really put a fire in your stomach to go out there and go get them and really push forward. Whereas over and over again, we see people who are born into second generation, third generation wealth often fall by the wayside.
They get lost. A lot of them do. And, I can say after 25 years of teaching university and 20 plus years of being a yoga therapist, the people with a lot of wealth are often as miserable or more miserable than the people who don't have wealth. And, I think there's research to support this, that, once you get up to $70,000 a year, which that would be a great salary for most yoga teachers and Ayurvedic practitioners. But after that, there's no more happiness that comes. 70,000, and then you take the taxes out, and you're looking at a very simple life. Because I don't know about you, but 70,000 in Southern California, where I live, is, that wouldn't be like a lot of excess money.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's so interesting to look at these belief systems and to see people's circumstances and how it affects their life and their choices. Like for our family, 6 kids, there was a lot of sharing going on of clothes and, so there was, a lot of mouths to feed. But yeah, it's just so interesting to see how different people's family experiences and circumstances have a knock-on effect in the rest of their life. And then you see other people who turn it around completely.
Yeah, like my brother. Yeah. And he doesn't have any guilt about his wealth. He's in complete joy, not because he's rich, but because he can do what he wants with his days, and he can structure the freedom of his life that he wants to experience. And that's really what it's all about, right? It's not gaining all this money to put it in a safe somewhere, put it in the stock market. It's how much freedom are we experiencing in this life, and what do we need to sustain ourselves to get to that amount of freedom that we desire?
Right. And that comes down to how much do you need? Does money buy us freedom, or does our outlook on life and our desires and our needs to have a comfortable life determine our freedom? Right.
Yeah. And, I drove a really crappy old Subaru the thing was falling apart. It was so old. And I think everybody looked at me like, oh my gosh, what, they'd see me get out of this car, but I didn't care.
Yeah,
to me, it was like, hey,
too.
The car's still running. Why would I want to go throw it in the dump?
Yeah.
But when it comes to pet care and vet appointments and the best pet food, and that is sheer joy to be with my pets and take good care of them and make sure they have the most lovely life possible. I will spend a lot of money on that. Right. And I that's my idea of freedom, is seeing them healthy and happy. And it just gives me such joy to see them prancing around looking so cute and happy.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not interested in material stuff either. I've had really bad cars along the way. In France, I had a little scooter, which was on its last legs, but it got me from A to B. But yeah, like you, I want to invest in experiences, invest in good quality food, invest in travel, in education. And that's, my goals right here. But something I want to ask you, Amy, do you believe that like prosperity or abundance is our birthright?
Not any more than having a really great relationship with a partner, or keeping your body in shape and happy and healthy and pain-free. I mean, I think we have to work for things. There's, that Yoga Sutra that says Abhyasa Vairagyam is you have to persevere, you have to focus, you have to work at it.
Right.
And I don't think money is any different. I keep hearing my Ayurvedic teacher say, the moment you're born, the clock is ticking for death, and that your job in Ayurveda is to keep your body and mind as healthy as possible, to keep the god of death off your back for as long as you can. He's very strong about that. And I would say the same is about money. It's not your birthright to just come here and be entitled to it. It's your birthright to have the opportunity to work for it and to get smarter about it and to study it and to learn from your failures. That's your birthright.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think, like you're saying, you have to persevere and focus and work for it. That's where the appreciation for it comes, I think. I was listening to recently, they were talking about the lottery winners. I can't remember where I was listening to this, but how there's been studies done that a lot of people win the lottery and then they have a hard time with that much money and what to do with it. And a lot of times they end up broke again.
Yes, and drunk and addicted and losing their close relationships.
I'm going to jump in here because I have so many new things to tell you about. I just launched a new website, a new online learning platform, and that new podcast community I mentioned in the introduction, where like-minded people can come together in a safe space away from social media, which I find wasn't allowing that intimate connection, that deeper conversation. So check it out in the show notes or visit elementshealingandwellbeing.com. I also want to tell you about 2 discounted events I have coming up. Both these events are starting on January 22nd. And both are discounted. There's the group Digestive Reset Cleanse, which comes with a 90-minute one-to-one online consultation with me so I can tailor this holistic cleanse to you, tailor the recipes, the yoga videos, the meditation, the pranayama, and anything else I think you need to bring your body and mind into balance. Then the second program is the Reset, Restore, Renew program. So you get the 90-minute consult and you go through the cleanse, and then post-cleanse you continue on to a more educational journey. We want to install a new operating system of daily dinacharya and educating you to become your own healer. So you get the 90-minute consult, you get the cleanse, and then you do a 30-minute check-in with me before moving on to the Daily Habits for a Holistic Health course. And then after that course, where you get a lot of education around this new operating system and how to become your own healer, then you have a 60-minute follow-up consultation with me. So the idea of the Reset, Restore, Renew program is that not only are we cleansing your body and mind, bringing you into balance, but then I'm bringing you through a program where it's educational and empowering you to become your own healer so you can prevent any dis-ease in the body and mind going forward. So please check out those 2 group events, and both of those events come with a private community where you can connect with others and we go through it together and support each other and hold each other accountable. So you'll find the link in the show notes, or just go directly to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. For the discounted events, you'll find them under the events tab. If that date doesn't suit you, you can do a private program at any time and you get to choose your own dates, and you'll find that under the programs. So I hope you like the new website. Check it out. I hope you come join that podcast community over there so we can have a deeper connection. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Okay, let's go back to my conversation with Amy.
I made an infographic this morning called Money, Emotional Triggers, and Chakras.
Oh, wow.
Because, before our podcast, I always wake up and meditate on what we're going to talk about. And can I just take you through what came to me this morning?
Yes.
That the work that we need to do, whether you win the lottery or you make $1 million on your own, or it's given to you through your family inheritance, we all have to do our work around this. And money is just energy.
Yep.
It's energy just like anything else that comes to you.
That's why they call it currency, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, if we look at the issues that go with our first chakra, and this is where I think most of us are stuck when it comes to money, it's around safety and security and trusting that we're not going to die. We're not going to be homeless. And I think, I was even thinking like, well, what does that mean for a homeless person then? How does that happen? Maybe you don't have family support or even have a family, and there's nobody there to pick you up when you lose that job and you can't make that rent payment. Does that mean they have first chakra issues? And I just want to stay away from victim blaming, because no, I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I believe that really crappy things happen to people, and we all need other people to help us, right? And maybe that person didn't have anyone that reached out a hand to help. And there's a lot of us that are not in that position, that we do have family or friends or a mentor or someone that took interest in us. We do have a home, even if we're worried about paying the rent. And so for those people is who I'm talking about, to really take a good, hard, mindful look at safety, security, trust. And when am I being histrionic? When am I blowing things out of proportion, yelling at my husband because for some reason there's only X amount in the bank? Who am I blaming? What are all those really fear-filled emotions that come up? And am I layering on some avidya or some misperception on top of what is? That's what I'm talking about, right? That I've always been poor. I will always be poor no matter what I do. It's never going to work. I might as well give up. That kind of hysteria. Because I remember being there, honestly. I say this from experience.
Right.
So that's what I call like the first chakra meditation on money. And then we go to, do you want to say anything about that?
No, it absolutely, that first chakra is all about, the foundations. Absolutely. And in order to feel safe, we have to have a certain foundation of comfort with money.
And I think that security and foundation does come from people who care about us and are willing to loan us the money for the rent, or are willing to, bring us food. When we were young, because we were poor, we had people from the church had to bring us food because we didn't have enough food to eat, and trusting that that's going to show up, on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. when all the kids are hungry after sports practice. Are they really going to bring that pot roast?
Right.
So let's go to the second chakra, because I think the second chakra, there's a little more spaciousness, there's a little more flow, there's a little more play and ease and creativity and aliveness. And I find that for those of us who have really big first chakra issues around it, it's almost like our second chakra is completely contracted and there's no space, and it's very rigid, wrong and right and righteous, and like the creativity and the aliveness and the flow or the play is just not there. So
it's like the energy is stagnant in the first chakra, so it's not flowing up through the second chakra.
Yeah. And I find that those two are super connected. That usually, if there's no ability to breathe and soothe and, get a little more spacious and relax into it, that, well, we might have to go back and look at those safety and security issues together. And then the third chakra, and this, again, I see this so much in my business course, is self-doubt and not believing that they have something to offer the world that's of significance that people would pay money for. People just are, of all the 9 obstacles in the Yoga Sutras, samshaya is by far the biggest one, which is self-doubt.
Imposter syndrome.
Or there's nothing unique about me. There's nothing, I have nothing that I could offer that's not already being given out there for free or cheap. So many people in the business course say things like, well, I'll give this 3 months, but if it doesn't work, and I'm like, 3 months like that, no, you have to have faith in yourself and trust and persistence and tenacity for 3 years, honey. Like if you give up after 3 months, that's like you in a 400-meter race, you just went 10 meters. the self-esteem to keep running around the third turn at 300 meters when your legs are falling off and your lungs are, just exploding and coming in on the home stretch as hard as you can. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And people don't get that. They don't understand that that's what it's going to take.
Right. And then that goes back to their original experiences with money, right? I get that must tie into
exactly.
That. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is here's the thing, when we have trauma around money, unresolved trauma, we can't do the third chakra stuff. We give up because we start thinking there's something wrong with me. There's something in my blueprint or my history, or I married this stupid person that spends all our money. And, there may be some of that too, but we can't sit with the pain because it's too great and push through like that third turn on a 400-meter race, There's something with the unresolved trauma that just makes us throw up our hands and say, forget it, I can't do this.
Right.
So that's what that accountant really, without even knowing it, taught me, like, oh, this is my trauma speaking. I have a choice and I can push through. And I did. I figured out how to make the money in my life be more like divine play instead of trauma response.
Right, exactly.
And it feels good, let me tell you. And that's not to say it will always last.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to have enough money the rest of my life. I'm saying at this moment, I can see the flow of this energy source and I'm irrigating my field and it's fun, Now a tornado might come and wreck my field and then I have to go find a new field, right? But
it's constant work and it's constant awareness around your tendencies. That tendency is there. So, but now you're aware of it, so you're able to catch it when you feel it coming up.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, that this work is no different than jealousy of a spouse. It's no different than wanting to eat that piece of cheesecake. It's no different than figuring out your trigger for fibromyalgia or triggers, right? It's a work in progress. You're constantly studying yourself to try to understand, we say feedback, not failure,
Right.
So let's go to our fourth chakra. This is super important. And I didn't understand this. I had always been a lone wolf. One of my trauma responses is to just do it all myself and not ask for help and not be in relationship and think that, I can do it more efficiently if I just get it done. And fourth chakra is all about the heart and being in relationship with others and stating our needs and letting them know we care about them. We hope they care about us. I'm willing to help you. Are you willing to help me? I think you and I are a perfect example of this in business. Is we both do our own thing, but we try to really support each other.
Right.
Yeah. So knowing that how we are in relationship with others, not as a like, ooh, I want to get something from Colette, but I genuinely love Colette. And I if she called me tomorrow and asked a favor for me, I would bend over backwards, like that kind of heart connection is so important in terms of keeping it flowing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And going to people when we're devastated or when we feel like giving up or we've had a really hard month or like just having somebody to listen with empathy.
Yeah. And what comes up for me here as well is being careful a lot of times that pride doesn't get in the way of asking for help or reaching out or letting down those barriers around your heart chakra, which I think a lot of us, and I've definitely had to do work on, is that, we get hurt and that wall goes up around the heart and the heart chakra and that energy is not flowing. So watching out for pride, and pride holding you back from asking from help. I think that is a big factor as well.
And I think the second chakra and the fourth chakra are connected, if we're going to play the shame and blame game, we're not going to develop deep relationships, and people aren't going to want to help us.
Yeah.
Right. So I, at one point, my husband and I, as we worked through these issues early in our marriage, I had to say, are we on the same team or are we on a different team? Because if we're on the same team, it's not helping me to put him down or to point fingers or to say, you made a bad decision. Now we're blah, blah, blah. Like I had to say, oh, he's on my team. I want to be in relationship with him and then row together in the same boat instead of rowing in two different directions and then complaining about why it isn't working.
Yeah, again, even your rowing analogy, it's all like moving with the currency, the energy. It's all that energy flow. And it's so funny. This is like this overlapping theme in this conversation. We're talking about the chakras, these vortexes of energy in the body and the energy of money and the energy we have towards money and the energy of our connections. It's interesting how it all comes down to that and the energy we're putting out there as well.
So along those lines, let's just be really honest and say there's no guarantees. Like you could do all this work, abhyasa, but then there's still vairagyam. There's this, and we'll get to that in the seventh chakra, that detachment. And so let's get to fifth and sixth before we go up there. So the fifth one, it's all about speaking our truth, being who we are, letting the world see who we are. So, for example, with, what has happened in our country, say on January 6th with the raiding of the White House and all of it. Like, if you believe that was wrong, you have to have a very clear message that you don't agree with that. You have to be able to state, who am I and what do I believe? You cannot please everyone. And in fact, I would say, if you want to make money and have a clear message, you have to be willing to repel people. And I'm not going to go on Facebook and say, defriend me. That some people do that and I'm fine with that. I have no problem. But personally, I'm just going to be me. And if I repel you, my feelings aren't going to be hurt. It's okay.
Yes. And I think, you have to stand in your own truth. And I think by standing your own truth, that energy resonates out.
Yes. I just have in my new Optimal State Yoga Therapy program, we're starting a new cohort and there's 25 people, which is the biggest cohort we've ever had. It's so fantastic for a 3-year journey together. And I think almost every single one of them has told me at some point that they resonate with my message of social justice. And that's one of the reasons they got very interested in finding out more about my program as opposed to some other program. Right. And so I didn't intend for that to happen. I was being me, but I realized, they want to get me. They want me to get them. They want to know we have the same values. They want to know that we have a similar belief structure before they invest 3 years with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that seeking of like-minded people and a community like that is really important today because of our disconnection. And, this is why people are seeking out Ayurveda and yoga, because they want to have a deeper connection with themselves and others. And I was just talking to you before we started recording that I just formed a new podcast community and I wanted to get away from Facebook groups, which I feel like they're less intimate. And now I've put it onto my new website. So I'll be letting all of you know about that. But, because you were saying, a moment ago about standing in your truth. And my truth is I really like small, intimate connections rather than this massive Facebook group, which I feel that I can't really be really personal and share in. But I want this more intimate connection where it's a private group, people feel safe and they can be really open. And I'm looking forward to sharing more in there and being more, integrated in that community. Whereas on social media, I don't feel safe there to share openly.
And so that's a super clear message that I want connection. I want intimacy. I want to go deep. I want a private space. Yeah. and you're going to have to come over here to be with me in that area. And you know yourself,
Right.
you believe in yourself, and you're making the move.
Right. I know in life, I tend to like small groups and intimate chats. And I'd rather that to being in a big party with, a couple of thousand people.
Right.
That's not me.
And your podcast is your funnel into the smaller, more intimate group that people will pay for.
Right. So that's the goal. So we'll see. But I just opened it up today, and so far people are joining. So I'm excited.
Woohoo!
I'm excited about this new platform, and again that it's safe and it's private.
Yeah, and so you did your work around self-esteem and believing in you and knowing that this is the way you're going to work best. You're inviting people in to be in relationship with you in the way that you prefer, and you've got a clear message. I'm getting off Facebook, and we're going to be over here, and here's why. Right. And people are resonating.
Yeah. But again, and it goes back to speaking your truth and standing in your truth. Because I think if you're faking it and trying to be something you're not, people feel that energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or they also feel when you're really unstable and you're unsure.
Right.
And that's hard because all of us feel a little unsure when we make a big move or we try something new, Yeah. So let's go to the sixth chakra, the center of wisdom and intuition. And I think this ties into what you were just saying too, is that constant refinement of who am I? Why am I here? How can I be of service? What pathways are going to work for me? Which ones are not going to work for me? Wow, I see this person with all that business, but I could never do it like she does it. Or, wow, I got an idea from deep inside myself this morning that I think I'm going to give a try, and just really tuning into that deeper voice of wisdom on a regular basis so that you stay on track. It's really easy to get distracted by shiny objects and run off into the new thing. And what I'm saying here is go inward. Sixth chakra, go inward and connect with that wisdom inside of you to know where to place yourself and how to place yourself.
100%. Because more likes on social media or more money is not necessarily going to bring you what you desire. Right? That you have to first of all figure out what it is that you want, what it is that means freedom for you. For everybody, that's different. And, some people will want a house and a foundation and so much money in the bank. And that's their, definition of freedom. And that would make them feel good and a solid foundation. And other people, it's maybe a cabin in the woods with their pets.
And here's the strange thing. I actually love Facebook. I feel so comfortable there. I feel like I have made so many friends over the years. I think many of the students that come to me say, oh, I've been following you on Facebook for a couple of years. I just feel at home there. And so this is what I'm saying about intuition. We got to do what's working for us. And if there comes a day where I don't feel safe or I don't like it or, who knows what could happen, well, then I have the intuition at that point to say, I'm going to join Colette over in that private community thing she's got going.
Yeah. And that's it. And knowing what works for you and not looking over your shoulder at others, because what's working for them is because of their beliefs or their desires at this time. It's not for you. So really.
Can we say that again? So critical. Your belief structure that you like a private place, you like intimate connection, you like to feel safe. That's Colette's belief structure. So that's what's going to work for her. Amy, for some reason, likes to be more public on Facebook and just throw these ideas out there. And that it's like this creative dance to see who might respond and what are they going to say. And wow, how interesting is that? And so that's going to work for Amy, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that my way is going to work for you and your way is going to work for me. So that's that sixth chakra, is knowing yourself well enough to know what is going to help give you prosperity and abundance and studying it.
Yeah. And then you'll attract the people like you were
Right.
saying, you'll attract the people who are on your wavelength, and so will understand, will resonate better with you, and so on.
We did it in our opening night of our yoga therapy program. We did a kind of get to know you introductions, and almost every single person was like, "I'm a dog mom." I'm like, I'm not surprised. All the dog moms came to one place.
Isn't that funny? So that's it. We all have our points that we resonate with each other, and that's it. And I think the more that we stand in our truth and really define, first of all, do that inner work and know who we are, and then make choices from there, I think that is a great driver in life.
Which you kind of have to get out of the fear response, the trauma response, the hysteria, which is so hard when you don't have enough. I remember early on, like I did not know how to pay my bills, and it was almost impossible not to go to those first chakra fear responses and childhood traumas. And to have somebody say to me, well, you need to come all the way up into your upper I would have been like, do you want to be punched in the face? Because I'm really not in the mood for you right now. But if somebody had said to me, Amy, do you want to do some work around your trauma? I think I could have gone there. Right. So let's finish with the seventh chakra. So for me, this is all about connection to the divine. It's about spaciousness. It's about letting go, doing my best, and then letting the outcome be what it's going to be. It's about connecting to something larger than myself. For example, in my yoga experience, I'm part of what we call parampara, which is there's a lineage of teachers for thousands of years that have been teaching the same concepts that I have, and I'm just one of the candles in the line of teachers that will continue long after me. There's so many ways that I use to kind of surrender the outcome of my efforts. So how is it that you kind of surrender the outcome to something larger than yourself?
Right. Well, let's use the example of this podcast community, the private podcast community. It was intuition, and it was, okay, this could go really badly. People may not resonate with it. It may not work, but I just decided to go with it. I listened to that little voice within. I said, okay, I'm going to do it and put it out there like I just did today, and we'll see what happens. And I'm rolling on faith, like faith in my belief systems and faith in my intuition. But I'm willing to take those risks. And I've taken risks like this throughout my life, and I'm willing to risk and bet on my intuition. And I like betting on my intuition because I like to see the outcome. And I'm not tied to it either. Do you know what I'm saying? So if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to collapse. And
that's right. And I think it's really hard to have that kind of surrender and spaciousness. If you're not okay with it ending either way, of course you have a preference.
Right.
But let's say people just don't want to transfer, whatever their thoughts might be. Well, you can handle that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, okay, now I have some feedback on my thought, and then maybe I pivot or maybe I do something else, but I still have my same belief system. I'm still saying a large Facebook group doesn't provide me with the connection I want to have with people who are, listeners of the podcast. I want more connection, and that platform doesn't provide it for me. So then it would be like, okay, let's look at something else. Yeah.
And it goes back to a farmer irrigating the field. Well, yes, the farmer has removed 42 rocks. Mm-hmm. The farmer has checked to see the water source is working. The farmer doesn't just at some point say, oh, screw it, we're done. I'm sick of this. Plants, you all can die this year.
Right.
No.
Well, yeah.
It's he or she just keeps finding ways around the obstacles to try to get the water to the plants. Mm-hmm. Hopes for the best, and lets go of the outcome. You never know.
Right, exactly. And I think the farmer analogy is great because a farmer does have to put a lot of faith every, time they sow a seed, and hoping that the conditions, which they have no control over, the climate, the weather, are going to be right for that, for that seed to grow and flourish. So yeah, I think we have to take some risks. I'm not saying be crazy, but take some risks in life. And I always encourage people to test their intuition in little ways. And I think that we have a greater ability than we know.
When I hear people say, well, I don't want to do this, I'm not an online person, or I can't do marketing, or this is not what I signed up for to be an entrepreneur. Well, I've had those thoughts too, because trust me, I've been there, still go there some days, but what's the alternative? There isn't one. If we want to be in yoga and Ayurveda at this point in time, in the middle of a pandemic, and where each of the respective fields are in terms of, development of that field, entrepreneurship is it. That's what we got.
Yeah, but I think you can also do it in your own way. I don't think you have to follow the textbook, because I know a lot of stuff that, business courses I've done, it does not resonate with me. I don't want to be that person sending out loads of emails or really blasting, the people who really trust me with their email address. I want to be really respectful of that. And I don't want to be sending out loads of things. And, so yeah, I think you can do it in your own way.
I agree. Mm-hmm. And this thought of bailing or ejecting, it's not very realistic. It's kind of like the person who is in a marriage and just keeps, every time there's a fight, starts thinking, I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave. Like, okay, well, either get in or get out. Right, but keeping one foot in each camp and hating the reality of what is and wishing it were different and being mad, it doesn't do us any good. We have to, you and I both love the fields of yoga therapy, Ayurveda. Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing. And we're going to be the farmer who continues to find our way through the obstacles to get where you need to go and where I need to go individually and together. Yeah. And we're just going to keep, I think in 20 years, you and I are still going to be talking. I don't know if you'll still have a podcast, but we're going to still be doing this work.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a conversation with someone about this, someone who's been in my life a very long time. And we were talking about that. And he was saying, you could have stayed in the bank and worked your way up and be making, really great money by now. And he's like, but you chose to do this and to step out, and you chose to take that risk. And, we were just having this really in-depth conversation about life. He's, taken early retirement. So he's thinking a lot about these things and what's life really about and so on. So I think again, it goes back to what do you want? What are your belief systems? What is freedom for you? And freedom for me is working for myself. And I don't need a lot of material stuff. I'm a minimalist. And so freedom is being able to invest in what I want to invest in. Yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to, is really understanding what is freedom for you. What is a solid foundation for you that would give you that freedom?
Completely agree. And that the finances and money are just part of the larger flow of that.
Right. Right. They're just another, they're like another limb to help you. There's many things and many limbs on your tree of life, right? That can help you on the path and that are necessary. So what does that look like for you? And I do think it's a constant work. I'm constantly working, through chakras and constantly working on my belief systems. And I have awareness around some of my belief systems, and it's still work. For years, I'm aware of where, my energy is stagnant, and it's still work all the time.
Yeah.
Because especially when they're belief systems from younger, like they're really in our matrix. They really take a long time. And I don't know if they'll ever really go, but I think once we shine a light on them and we have awareness of them, well, then that kind of, deflates them, right? Because now we know they're there. We know they're hiding out there somewhere in our matrix. And we know that when we see that trigger coming up, we're like, oh yeah, I see that old pattern. And the minute that you shine light on it, I think it takes the energy away from it. And then you know what to do in order to move away from those old fears.
For me, that would be step 2. Step 1 would be, I'm triggered. I have to soothe myself and come back into balance before I can shine a light and really get to know it and understand it. I had so such a little ability to soothe myself around my money triggers for so many years. It was unbearable.
Right.
And now I can. Now I'm like, there it is. All right, let's go get in the bathtub. Let's go do a practice. Let's breathe through it. Let's talk to somebody and have them help soothe you. There's so many ways to work with that trauma.
Yeah. And I do think, it's that self-study we talk about and looking at it with curiosity, no shame, no guilt. It is what it is. We all have our experiences through life, which build these belief systems, and so it's more looking at it more with curiosity. I'm like, wow, how does that affect me? How does that belief system, which I carry, affect me in my life now? And where can I work to shift it?
Just this morning, I was working with a client on her trauma around money, and I just kept using the word curiosity. Can you be curious? Yeah. Can you step back and get interested in your response, interested in what happened, interested in why it's flowing or not flowing? Can you unravel all the trauma and just see it for what it is and get maybe even in awe of it,
Because I think the curiosity takes the fear out of it.
Yeah.
And the fight or flight response away from it.
Yeah.
Amy, before we finish up, and thanks for a great conversation, I wanted you to tell us, you mentioned your course. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. So we have a 6-month build your yoga therapy, Ayurveda, or holistic health business course that starts in early May and goes through November. And it's every week. We have lessons, we have workbooks, we have group coaching. You can do privates. There's so many ways to kind of work through your mindset, your money trauma, your strategies, your marketing, your ideal clients, your pain points, social media. Like there's so many steps to try to get them all going in the same direction, your message. So we just spend 6 months, and then, to be honest, that's not the end of the journey. That's teaching you the template, and then you have to go and really figure it out. And we stay in community. The group that we started last year, we still meet every week, even though the course is over, we're still meeting, and that's fine. We invite people back to continue, because it's going to be, just getting the business up and going is 2 to 3 years, and then sustaining it is a lifetime, Oh,
absolutely. Yes. Well, Amy, thank you. I think there was a great conversation, and definitely something for us all to think about and continually work on, and looking at where the energy is flowing and where the energy is stagnant. So I appreciate you bringing up this topic today, my dear.
Thank you for having me. And I hope people can learn something from it, because this is a big issue in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's something I've definitely had to work on and spend time on, and still have to work on. So thanks again. And here's to many more conversations in 2021.
Thank you.
Thanks, my dear. Chat soon.
Yep. Goodbye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Amy. And if you think this episode will be helpful to family or friends, then please share it with them so we can get this information out there. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you want to leave a rating and review, I would really appreciate that. Don't forget to check out my new website, the new learning platform I have there, the new podcast community over on the website, and those 2 discounted group programs, the Digestive Reset Cleanse and the Reset Restore Renew, starting January 22nd. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope to connect with you in the private community soon. Take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.